Yes, awesome. So we are about to start this call. First, thank you so much for joining me, guys. I hope you have a good moment here. I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay, can you see my PPT now? Okay, awesome. Guys, what we are going to discuss today actually is the idea behind what it takes to be a Kickass LCP for a Kickass VP iGT. And the idea is just give you some tips. First, bring an idea, an overall idea about the current state of the network. And the second thing is also to give you some inputs about what are the priorities for this month, okay? So the first thing is you will see there is a lot of visual information. So I recommend some of you like take a look at the slides. If you're doing something else, it's fine. But just be aware there's a lot of content here and you have access to the PowerPoint as soon as I finish this call. So guys, what I would like to share with you first, actually, it's a game. So I'm gonna ask you, this is supposed to be our little secret. So are you ready to start? Just give me a hi because I can't see the link, the chat. So say me something and we're ready. Yay.
Yes, we are ready.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sujaya. Thank you so much. I want to start like by playing a game with you. Everybody asks me like, what am I supposed to be doing if I'm focusing iGT or if I'm non-focused? So I wanna check with you like, what are your thoughts? So the first thing is, do you think that knowing how many opportunities you have available and what's the deadline to match them, it's something that an LCP focusing iGT should know? A focused LCP or a non-focused should know as well? What do you think?
Yes, everyone should know how many opportunities they have open.
Okay. The forecast of results for the month, not pipeline in terms of like how many companies I have available, these kind of things, but literally like I know that I have 5 companies that are supposed to bring me 5 opens by the end of this month. Do you know if you're supposed to know it even if you're not non-focused? For example, Alex Madsen.
The group chat is saying FOCO and non-FOCO should know.
Okay, thank you. And what about how many meetings your VP had this week?
Retweet. Yes, everyone should know focus and non-focus.
Okay. And finally, talk about iGT operations and how the team is doing every week, at least once, with your VP.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. You know why? Because people keep asking like if they didn't know that. And the biggest challenge for you as an LCP is about like how you place your energy and your time towards operations. And of course, if it's your focus or non-focus, it's going to define that. But the most important thing to keep in mind that is there are minimums that you should be taking care of independently if you're focused or non-focusing iGT. I want to share with you the idea behind the process because some of you don't have the background in iGT. So pretty much, for example, when we talk about sales process, that's the flow that someone should go through and you'd be looking for to track them. So since market segmentation, what the product that you're using, how many companies you have prospected, what the list of the companies you're approaching, how many calls, emails, LinkedIn messages, cold walk-ins have you done, how many sales meetings, how many follow-ups done over the sales meetings for the ones which you evolve, and finally, how many contracts, how many job descriptions you have. Time, if you are managing the iGT process, you need to know if you have an opportunity available, what's the stage of this process that you are. So are we still sourcing for someone, the opportunity available? We have a short list and the company needs to define who they are hiring. What is the status of the visa paperwork, like who is doing what, when we have the package, what are the files missing? when the realization process is starting, who is doing the pickups, kind of things. But this is an overall idea, and I want to actually bring you something deeper than just the process, which is manage your VPs as people in their roles. So I did a network analysis, taking into consideration 2 factors, and this is gonna be our little secret, okay? The first one is in terms of engagement, and what I used it to measure that was the number of webinars that your VPs attended, if they are in our network group, and if they did or if they didn't one-on-one with their respective coach in my NST. And in terms of productivity, it's their results. So how many they have in overall of meetings, opens, and approvals. I'm not counting realizations, acceptances, interactions, pretty much meetings, opens, and approvals, which are like the most important points for January and February that they have done. And I did this calculation of these numbers based in January 1st until today. And I would like you to take a look at this. And I want to ask you, how do you feel looking at that? What comes to your mind? What are the questions that you raise when you see this? Do you have any thoughts? It's per entity, the number of meetings done by the entity. From January 1st until today. But remember, Alex, that this is the conversion of the productivity and the engagement. So it's for even like, for example, even if Ben did 15 meetings, how he did, push down in terms of if they have like a low engagement and need to show up, for example, a webinar, because it's the conversion point, okay? Absolute number of engagement and performance, but it's the conversion point of both, okay? Do you have questions, guys?
Vinny, can you see the chat?
I'm checking it. I'm gonna try to explain. So if you take a look at the axis, I'm measuring here from 0 to 3, the number of engagements by one-on-ones attended, webinars, and network engagement that I see. Like, this is a very subjective factor, but it's important how active they are in the group chat. With this information, like an average point, a medium point between 0 to 3. For example, look at UGA. Tucker, the VP in there, he has the highest engagement in the network so far because he did everything. He showed up for everything and he does everything. Engagement. If you take a look at productivity, it's the medium point of the overall number of meetings, opens, and approvals. So if I sum up meetings, opens, and approvals, and I divide per 3, I'm gonna have a number around here. If I get that, I'm gonna find the conversion point here. Makes more sense now? Yeah. And I'm gonna tell you guys why this is so important to understand. It's because we have an idea of what kind of VP you have right now. You can classify, for example, in low engaged and with a high performance. In this case, we don't have any LC in this square. LCs with high engagement and high performance. In this case, Austin and Madison. And for me, this is a very remarkable thing because Austin, for example, is focused in iGT, but Madison isn't. Square. So like, doesn't matter if your VP is a focus or not, all of them, they are supposed to be here in this square. If that makes sense for you, of course. And finally, we have some entities they are high engaged. Results, short-term results we haven't seen a lot. And in terms of engagement and performance, they're all low. Remember, all this data was extracted from Podio and Expa. So if things are not updated there, there is no way to me or an ST or no one else tells if something is happening or not in your LC. So before we move forward, do you have question about it? Okay, I'm gonna move forward to share with you what are the suggestions that I have to make. To take in consideration these squares, you're gonna place your VP in a specific point of their experiences that you need to push something. If you had someone, for example, who are low engaged with a low performance, which in this case we don't have no one, you would have a lot of bullet points, follow-up questions to address with this person later. For example, in terms of low engagement and low performance, we have Northwestern, Miami, Florida, Miami, Ohio, Dallas, Davis is low, Seattle, USC, DC, San Jose, and Michigan. Points that I would recommend you to have with your VP. First, reality check. Are we really low engaged and are we really low performing? Update my sheet on Podio. If I don't update my sheet on Expa, of course, these things will not show up because this is going to bring you the clarity if your VP is good or if he's just struggling, for example, with the accountability system, which is fine. Sometimes what is holding people's engagement and performance is functional training because these people, they don't show up for trainings. So if they don't show up, there's no way to learn. And if they don't learn, they won't perform. One-on-ones with their NSTs and webinars, you might have a problem later. Like if you take into consideration high-performing entities that I've been Isaac in Brazil, I've seen how Isaac in Colombia works, I've seen like how Egypt has grown in the past years in iGT. The VPs, they are highly engaged and they are highly engaged with webinars, with education touch points that they have along the week. So if your VP is not showing up for things like this, most likely this person is not going to perform neither. Point would be short-term goals. In this case, what means short-term goals for these people? Like they need a small deliverable in a week. So for example, if I don't feel trained enough to perform sales, I need to watch and I need to get in touch with 50 companies by phone. If you deliver this task in a 5 days deadline, this person the other week is going to be able to evolve and is going to know more than they used to. If you have someone who is highly engaged but still has low performance, most likely the problem is not education, but the problem is operations management. The problem is volume. Some entities in this case, Arizona State, like Boston, New York City, and UGA, that means that your VPs are in terms of numbers, okay? Any companies approached, in terms of meetings meetings held, this kind of things. I have, for example, New York City. I can see the evolution of the VP in the past 2 weeks. Boston had a huge realization peak now in January, so the VP placed energy somewhere else. But if you don't think about those things, you're gonna have a problem later. So my recommendation for the HR locating this field would be first, the current state of each company. Like you need to hold your VP accountable to know the current state of each company, the current partners and the ones which they are approaching, and define a next step. So for example, I'm approaching this company, but they can be responsive or unresponsive. They can be engaged with Isaac or they can be disengaged. I might have a meeting or I can't move forward with the process and we're stuck because they are waiting on someone to make a decision. So you need to understand this detail. And something that, for example, has been a lot for example, UGA in this case, is time management. So the VP is struggling, let's say, with EB tasks, with recruitment that they're helping out, if they're supporting another function, if they're struggling with school, this person needs support with time management. Person literally, like, you can sit with her, positive attitude, not like just like I complain about the person, but by a positive attitude, I mean, in a one-on-one, sit ask to open, for example, her calendar, check and see what are the deliverables that you see that week would be nice in terms of volume. So for example, the number of companies approached. And personally speaking, these that might lead by example. I would say the same for the low engagement and low performance, because they need to see things happening and they need to drive it. They cannot wait on their members. They cannot wait on TLs. They need to drive the main results of the entity at the beginning of the education cycle, and that's fine. That's why I speak about short-term goals as well. Here, people are working, most likely. So what I would recommend you to do is set a goal for meetings. So you need to do, for example, 5 meetings next week, take out the challenge, and that's it. For people who are allocated in high engagement and high performance, in this case, Austin and Madison, my recommendation for my first question for you as LCPs is, do you see your job, your role, your effort on that as a reflection of that, or it's pretty much your VP, she's pretty independent, he does everything by themselves? If you are influenced somehow, great. If you are not, it's fine right now. If you ask yourself the question, what else you can do? So the first thing is, people who are working a high volume, they need emotional support. So how are you doing, for example, with family, with friends, with boyfriend, girlfriend? How are you doing, for example, with your team? What have you been struggling with, and how can I help you on that? Sometimes just be the listener. The third thing, I would say delegation, because in this case, for example, both entities, you have members allocated so far. So I would see like, what are the results coming from membership, and what are the people, what are the key members, the champions that they could be delegating more to support, take the burden out of their shoulders, for example. And finally, short-term goals. Why? Because those entities are the ones with the pipeline most involved. So that means that they might have something coming up next weeks. So it has happened before. For example, I have an approval, but it's not on Expo. And sometimes the only thing it's missing is the VP get in touch with the AP manager in the home country and say, hey, I need you to approve this person because they are selected, the visa is out, this person is almost arriving here, and it's still not updated. So like this small test that sometimes the VP gets caught in the whirlwind, it helps a lot if it has you supporting them on that. About this chart. Okay, awesome. Yeah, just highlight here in terms of Alex and Sanjaya, both VPs are very independent. And also they also come from the function. They were used to work with iGT last year. So it's something that might help a lot as well, if you keep that in mind, is if this person is just got in this function, it's normal to be placed in another square, which is not high engagement, high performance. But you need to ask yourself like what you can do to support them and get them to the other square as soon as possible. Rick, Laura, Eric again, Tarek, do you have any questions, guys? Do you think that these next steps, like those suggestions, do they make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes, Atish.
Yep.
Excellent. Forward then. Those things said, I want to share with you, yesterday, actually this morning, I sent out an email with the newsletter. So I believe you got it. Did you get it or not?
Yes.
Awesome. What is important about that is all the things which are supposed to happen now in February, and I really count on you to make sure that this is happening. Some of those things you know already. So for example, organization induction for new members. Most of you has done so far the induction, it's fine. But then you need to make sure that your VPs are doing the functional induction, which has specific topics addressed. Since LC history in iGT until KPI planning, for example. So I released on the booklet, there is a page with the topics that they are supposed to discuss in their inductions and an idea of the outline of the session. You can hold them accountable to that if you need. Training, my recommendation is just one, and specific training focused on sales. addressing spin selling and objections management. John held a call last Monday about those topics. There is a call also about sales team management that the VPs are supposed to check and see if they are implementing those things. Account manager and J1 certifications, as you know, per compendium in Isaac the US, every member allocated in iGT and now iGE as well is supposed to be certified. So there are guidelines on the booklet about it as well. Communication channels, some of our VPs are not adding their members to Podium. No? Okay. So the idea here is make sure that they are allocated on Podium and they have access to the stream and links, which are highlighted here. And of course, minimum tasks, because people are not supposed just to be trained for rocks. They're supposed to start working before that. So in this sense, they have the chance to actually experience the function, and we can catalyze and address the problems that they perceive when they are there. Make sense? Yep. Awesome. So they got this. Where you can find. There is a link, I guess, with the booklet. It's in our education, our resource hub already. You can find the link on the newsletter too. It's gonna be in this PPT, so this is fine. Something to keep in mind when you are talking to your VPs, it's about the perfect week in iGT. So what I recommend, of course, this is just an example in a daily basis, but what I see happening is at least 2 workspaces for cold calls and cold emails, meaning I'm VP, I get my members, my TLs together to do those spaces at least twice a week. The best days to schedule meetings, to realize meetings, to go to meetings, usually it's on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays. Mondays and Fridays, usually they're a little bit crowded. On Monday, it's crowded, their agendas, our company's agendas, and on Friday, people start leaving very soon. And I would recommend every week, their company's pipeline, just ask, so how was this week? Which companies do you think that next week should be your focus, to open opportunity or not? And team bonding. So I also see that the most successful VPs so far, they have been doing a lot of, like, they go to bars with their members, they have lunch together, they have dinner together, they go to the movies. So I would recommend having an activity like this also prepared. And when you take a look at this, do you think that this is doable for your VPs? So you can type if you want, but if you want to say something, you can do it. Go for it. Go for it. Okay. Okay. Awesome. And like, if you have a reason, why they wouldn't do that, what do you think that they would say about it? Mindset that don't let them to do it. No one? Sense. That makes sense. Like, if I am a member, I need to know that you're expecting that from me, and I need to include that in my calendar. Otherwise, I will never be available for it. We're about to unmute yourself. Do you have something to share?
Oh, sorry. It keeps freezing a little bit, and I'm on my phone, so I can't see the chat. So I was gonna ask, what was the question again?
Okay, so I have here on the slides the perfect week. So twice a week they do a workspace for cold calls, cold emails. They do at least one cold walk-in task force in the week. They usually do meetings on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays with companies. Also also do once a week a bonding activity, like going to a bar or a movie. Then my question was, this routine, which is pretty tight, and I know that, would make sense if your VPs would be on board with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Okay, Laura, Eric, do you have any thoughts?
No, I'm good. It's just a matter of getting our members to commit the time. But I agree with it.
Yeah, that's the same for me.
Okay. Okay. Good. Something that the team in the overall should be doing, something that I realized, for example, Seattle, you have a team of 9 people, split in iGE and iGT. So it's a lot of people. So usually you want to be able to get 9 people twice a week at the same time to do those things. And that's fine. But what I would recommend you to help your VPs with is check their members' calendar and seeing like what you can match and go get most of people when they are available. So if you have at least 3 people, at least a pair, is at least you have something else going on than just an FTN. As a yes. Let's move forward then. With this perfect week set, I would like to just to make sure that you know where to find this information. So right after this call, for me, I would really appreciate if you open the booklet. So the link is going to be available here. It's pretty much a presentation very similar to this one, but with more details about what they're supposed to be doing now in February. And then that said, I would like to share with you the idea behind think of iGT outside the box. Why? Because those processes that you saw before, they get stuck and people are not able to move forward. So I'm inviting you to think of your role and how you can make iGT better in your entity. And the first corner, like the main corner, the main interaction, synergy that you have in AB with iGT, iGE is finances. So it's a function, and I have this conversation with Katie twice this week, and the VP Finances will be receiving guidelines about that as well. But the idea is, how can I use my back office function to boost iGT? For example, association to chambers of commerce. Why? Because chambers of commerce, they realize at least 2 or 3 networking events, and the association fee is not that high. It's not that high to afford. So if you're a partner with one of these chambers, you always will be invited for those, and your members will be able to generate more leads in networking events. It's a great investment. I used to go to one once a week because in Brazil, like the chambers of commerce, they do it at least once a week. I'm not sure how often do you do here, but it's a good idea. Also budget for transportation. Why? Cities, for example, like Houston, most of the members are located in iGT, they don't have cars. So they need to dislocate themselves from the university and they live in the dorms and go to the city, which they would take at least 20, 30, 40 minutes. So if you have a clear budget about how much you can spend and you demonstrate that to your sales team and they are aware that they have this budget, they can organize themselves in FTM about how they are going to spend this. I'm going to use my routine and the money that MLC is making available for me to go to more meetings. And the return of investment that we're supposed to see after that would be the number of meetings. And I'm not sure if you had the chance to see the Sales Navigator. Any of you has used it before?
Sales what?
Sales Navigator of LinkedIn.
Yep.
Okay. What's nice about it is we have a tutorial, guys, with information about how to use it. So just to give you an idea, you are able to filter, for example, all the people on LinkedIn who are CEOs in your area and has been active on LinkedIn in the past 20 days. So you can do lead generation, you can approach companies by there. Like if your VPs do the subscription today, they get a 30 days trial. After that, the monthly fee would be around $60, which is very affordable for most of the entities, and you would have another tool to generate leads. So you could expect from them more leads, more meetings, and a bigger conversion rate because your approach is more qualified. Does it make sense? All right, why so silent?
The Sales Navigator is the same as LinkedIn Premium, right?
Yes, that's right. I believe that UGA, New York City are using already. And finally, the idea behind also the corner with finance, I would recommend you guys to have at least once a month a formal meeting with an iGT to go through these three topics. So the first one is the follow-up on invoice. The biggest problem of these is they don't know the name of the companies to know if they have an invoice overdue. To have this meeting, you are able to facilitate this communication among them. Also, the approval goes, why, as you know, the invoice is sent after the approval process. So with your approval expectation, you know more or less how much money I'm gonna bring the month. And after that, make sure that you know if you have a budget which is being used. So for example, if your VP has $100 per month to spend only in transportation and network events, and this guy is not doing it, you are just missing opportunity. Hold both of them accountable to check if you are seeing like interaction between finances and iGT, iGE going on. And never forget, most of you are running global entrepreneurs as well. Never forget to mention the forecast for iGT and iGE, because the revenue is gonna be different. The financial expectation is gonna be different. So make sure to address that. So before we moving forward, have you ever thought about how to capitalize finance? Like, do you feel comfortable about this? Is this something new? Like, how do you feel about this slide specifically? Come on, LCPs, bring it on. Talk to me, come on. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for the response, guys. And said, what I would recommend you to do is check by yourselves, especially the Sales Navigator. We have a tutorial already in English. It was recorded by Amanda Goodson. So she's literally like showing in a 3 minutes video, like 1 minute and 30 seconds video, how the tool works. So I would recommend you to check conversation to your VP finance and to your VP iGT, iGE, Patish. And have an idea about which is a stage your VP is in terms of engagement and performance. What are the next steps you need to make? How you can capitalize your synergy with finance to boost results in iGT? What's your role as a LCP that you can use in favor of iGT? I have two different topics. The first one is monitor, don't ask. Don't wait a meeting and one-on-one, for example, with your VP to ask, have this person done? How many interactions has you done? Why? Because you can just look at on Podio and see, guys. Literally, there's no secret behind Podio. Like each one of is there any one of you who used Podio in the past 5 days? For anything?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, always use it.
Okay, awesome. You're forgiven then. Like you can see exactly how many meetings you have scheduled for the month, and it helps a lot because you first monitor and you know what's going on, and after that you actually ask your VP what was the stage of those accounts. You did a meeting there, like how did it go? This kind of things. And the second thing is capitalize on your role as LCP by giving at least 1 hour of your day every now and then for the function. How you can do that? First, board of alumni referrals. Why I'm saying that? Because like the LCP role is very appreciated by alumni members, board members, have a lot of contacts, and sometimes your LCP is just not going to do it because they are focused on something else, which is their priority. So what I would recommend you to do is like by this week, map the board of alumnus that you have and try to check like what are the people that can give you more referrals. Reach out to those people, and you can engage your VP with the contact later once you have it. But you can clearly type an email saying, hey, this guy is part of my board of advisors, and I'm the president of this entity. In copy, you will find my vice president. Please, I would like to get to know a little bit more in your business. This would help a lot to boost things. The second thing is creating referral campaign inside the LC. So it's pretty much, for example, in LCM, you can pass a list of people who knows company owners, HR partners, that they know CEOs. It's like most of your members might have done at least one internship in their lives. That would be worth to take a look and see if this company would be good to host an exchange participant. If you have problems, for example, I know that New York City and DC, you have problems with unresponsive partners, that you have opportunities available and they don't move on the process. Sometimes the president giving a call or sending like a tough or a rough mail makes a lot of difference. So I would recommend you to intervene. And finally, approach old partners. So for example, if you had a company which were partner with you like in the past 2 years, but they are not right now, sometimes you can just approach this company and say, hey, I'm the current president. I'm aware that we used to be partners. Would you be available for a cup of coffee or lunch? I would like to get to know and understand better how was the partnership with your company. Does it make sense, guys? Sorry, Alex, can you hear me better now? Hi, can you hear me better? Okay. Guys, is it cutting off for you as well? Or just Alex?
No, it's fine.
Sorry about that, buddy. Okay. That said, I would like to check with you guys, like, think that this second point is for you.
Pretty doable.
Yeah. Do you think that by early next week you could like have this done? If I ask you, hey, do you have board referrals or have you been in touch with old partners? Do you think would be okay? Almost done. I need you guys. Come back. Thank you, Alex. Thank you. Eric, Laura, where are
What
you?
was the question? Sorry.
Done.
If you think that doing these activities on the second bullet point here early next week.
Yes.
Yeah, it's doable.
Okay. Thank you. Why I'm saying that? Because as you know, guys, timeline, like we cannot forget that. And we are in our sales peak right now. So everything you generate early next week, you can still become an open by the end of the month. That you are not stuck in the process, okay? I'm not sure if you have ever seen this chart before, the idea behind how do you get things done. And it's pretty much how you communicate, how you talk, how you get input, and you receive information. and how you coordinate things. Coordinate a lot of things. If you don't communicate, you never get things done, and the same works for the other side. So I want to share with you some ideas about what this is in iGT. So if you have an opportunity which is approved, but it's not on Expa, you have a problem. So you just need to check Expa. You don't need anyone to tell you that. You don't need me to send a newsletter. You don't need your VP to tell you that. You can do that by yourself. The same point about meetings, for example, you don't have to ask if you monitor them. If you take a look at the newsletters, you can, for example, compare which VPs are doing better, which VPs are not doing that good. See like what are the GCPs and what are the main priorities for the week. And you need to keep that in mind, that you need to make sure that your VPs, your members, they understand that 20% of what they need to do, especially right now at the beginning of the term, is training. They don't need to look up. They don't need to be all the time concerned about training. They need to practice. And they need someone to be with them, in this case, their team, to give them feedback. If you are communicating the information you get from those interactions, you will be able to coordinate and ask the right questions. For example, is this the right volume of activity that we are doing? Is this enough? Management and your performance. Has been more responsive to your NST, to your coach? Have you done your one-on-one? Have you showed up for this webinar that happened last week? If you didn't, did you watch the webinar later? Pep talks. So be really straightforward with your members, with your VPs, in terms of like, guys, that's the current situation, what we are doing to move from here. And then like something that I would like to share that has been frustrating people a lot and might help is, if your VP is doing anything sales, contact companies, there is something wrong. Like they need to manage their teams. They need to support you with interviews for recruitment. They need to support you with the B activities, board meetings, and everything. But if 70% of their times it's not allocated to be in contact with companies, there is something wrong. And then you should be concerned about your VP performance. If you take a look, for example, the high performing VPs, Matt and Austin, both of them, they have a very strong routine, and almost like every week I see something happening there. Ones with high engagement and low performance, they are being catch up in the whirlwind because they have a lot of activities happening at the same time, and they cannot pay attention to iGT specific action items. I'm not sure if you have perceived this. Have you seen this before? You identify the same problem? Or something different? I don't know. What do you think? I asked, what do you think? If you would say, for example, that most of the VPs which are high engaged but low performing, it's because they are doing a lot of things in their week that's not related to iGT. It's related to EB things, it's related to other functions, but not exactly iGT. Yeah, for example, a lot of VPs, they got stuck in recruitment interviews. So like 10 hours of their week, which is pretty busy doing interviews, how can they do 5 meetings that week? It's impossible. And it's supposed to be their priorities. Awesome. Okay, guys, that said, I would like to share with you, move towards the end of the call. So what's the idea? Vinny, okay, I got it. I see if my VP is being nice, if he hasn't been good. I see what are the priorities. What should I be concerned about right now? So you have this checklist. Like your members and your VPs, they might have done this in iGT by this week, but like right before rocks. Like they need to start, especially the first round of rocks that happens next weekend. Like you should be concerned that these things is happening before. For the others, I would say that even like more sales activities week before rocks that you have the second round, because you have time to address all of this and still increase more activity than you have done before the first round. So keep that in mind. Guys, do you have any questions about this checklist?
Where can we find out who is the NST coach?
Oh, great question. I can take a screenshot of my controller thing and send to you. I recommend you to ask them as well, but I'm gonna send to you so you can check it. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah. In your case, is John. John is Olivia's coach.
Classic. Okay.
Okay. Awesome.
Gotcha.
Questions?
I'll just unmute myself for this one finally. In the past, we've tried LC referral campaigns and they've always failed very, very badly. So I would love to know what a successful example of this is or how you recommend implementing it.
I loved your question. Man, is you need to make sure that your LC understands what your VPs and his members are doing with the contacts that they are giving up to you. People don't share contacts because they don't trust that the sale is going to be held correctly, appropriately, or something like that. I can actually write something else later and give you a more deep explanation. But what I would do is that's the flow that I would go. In an LCM, I would give 7 minutes, 10 minutes to iGT, speak about the why of the function and the current state and what is the priority for this month. And after that, give the LC a call to action. So by now, for example, we are focusing on approaching SMEs and startups, and I would like to ask how many of you has ever done, for example, in a company like this? And some people raise their hands, others will not. For those who raise their hands, have you ever asked yourself if those companies would be able to host, have a structure to host exchange participants? So first you conduct this conversation with the LC, and after that you do one-on-ones, literally one-on-ones. So there are some channels you can do it. For example, your VPs. You can ask your VPs to centralize the referrals in their function. So they will be approaching one-on-one. Hey, you saw the LCM, you know that they're doing this now. Are there any contacts from your parents, your family, your friends, your past jobs that you would like to share with us here in this location? And I think that if 20%, 30% of your LC giving up contacts for you, it's fine. So you do that and you give a clear idea about okay, you will be approaching these companies between this Monday and next Thursday. And for example, on Friday, you the people who did the sale, maybe even your VP can message this person and say, hey, thank you very much. I approached this person. I just want to say thank you for supporting us. Because the person needs to also feel who is giving up a contact. This person must feel the accountability to see what happens next. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I think also the part that you said about guiding a conversation to help people realize the people in their own network that might benefit from ISEC, that part was helpful too.
Exactly. Guys, it's the same idea why, how, what. So for iGT, especially for entities non-focused in iGT, which is Miami, Florida, for example, in Madison, it's very important to make sure that the LC understands why iGT. So giving up of the LCM to them, to the VPs, speak about it would be very helpful. And they actually had a session about how to build a Kickass iGT team. And the first part of it is how to fall in love with iGT, which is 7 reasons why this function is so important for ISEC. So this is also something that you can share with the whole LC. It's for all audiences, okay? Patish, so what I would recommend you to do is follow up these tasks. You also need to capitalize on rocks, so you're going to be there. And I'm going to be West Coast and Rowdies, Amanda in Texas and Northeast Beast, and John's going to be in SoCo. Why I'm sharing with you this in advance? be aware that iGT, it's going to be very focused in sales during Rocks, especially for global talent. So because we had the G Summit, we have like the champs on it already. So we'll be working very hard on global talent, which we have been decreasing in the past months. So be aware of that. If you have questions, is there any specific point or any specific person that you would like us to be in touch, like this champion member who you truly believe that can be like the highest performing member in your LC, and you think that if one of us have like a pep talk with this person would be helpful, great. If you see that your LC has a specific need, if they were not inducted correctly, if you perceive any problems, you can also ask some of us to take care of that during Rocks. And on us, on open channel to start the conversations you need to move the function forward in your entity, okay? That said, guys, I just want to close actually with a constant space. So do you first, how helpful this call has been so far for you guys?
I'll say that I loved it because my VP thought I was kind of like micromanaging her, but now I have a clear picture of like how I'm supposed to be handling the whole relationship.
Awesome. Laura, about to say something?
I was just gonna say that I love you.
Very much. Do you have any questions you'd like to ask before we close this call?
Yeah, are we going to be having calls like this often, like every month or so?
Great question. So I want to do it. I'm considering doing another one early March, right after Rocks, and checking like February's performance. So let's say that at least for March, I'm pretty positive we will do it.
Okay.
Do you think that would be helpful having at least a call per month?
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe maybe in the future they wouldn't be so long. Like it depends on the needs, I guess. But it would be really good to know what you recommend the
Okay.
VPs be focusing on.
Awesome. Yeah, something that we can work on is, for example, today was very content oriented that I need to downscale, but we can also open consultancy spaces. So which we don't have any specific topic to discuss, maybe like, and I can give you actually time to ask questions and to see more personalized problems that usually we don't have. Okay? Cool, guys. No, guys, thank you very much for showing up. I do appreciate. I'm gonna upload this in our resource hub and send you the link on the group. So if you need something, let me know, okay? Thank you so much. Have a great evening or afternoon for West Coast. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Uh,